Welcome to the Recruitment Rollercoaster podcast. My name is Hisham Azuz. Today I'm in another WeWork. Love to know how many WeWorks I've been in. I'm in another WeWork. I'm joined by Tim Lawrie, who is the founder of a recruitment agency called Projectus Consulting. And you guys specialize in the Med Tech industry, don't you?
That's exactly right, Hisham. Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me on.
No worries. So I've actually been looking forward to this, obviously having sort of getting to know your business a bit more. I'm really excited to sort of hear about the journey up until now.
Excellent. Looking forward to sharing.
As I was saying beforehand, where I always like to start on this podcast and this show is sort of how did Tim enter the recruitment industry? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, like a lot of people, at the time I sort of fell into it, but at the same time, there was some sort of method to the madness. So essentially my wife got a job, or was working in London at the time, and we were living in Northampton, so a little bit further up north. And I started to look for jobs in London and registered with a couple of recruiters. Yeah. And then it's the classic sort of PRC, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Classic flip. They were sales recruiters and met with CD recruitment,
nice.
Or CD sales recruitment at the time, and got to know those guys. Seemed like a great environment, good people, and went from there really. So yeah.
What was you doing before recruitment?
So I was in different sales jobs. Yeah, I did
sales.
Yeah, door-to-door sales for a while, which was
always a good grounding.
Yeah, good grounding. I did charity sales as well, sort of charity fundraising.
Yeah, so a lot on the street.
Yeah, all that sort of thing.
Thing is, Tim's actually really quite tall, so you're not going to be. Was you really tall at that point?
yeah.
Not something that you
just
could miss.
Threaten people. Yeah. And then also I was an estate agent for about 18 months.
An estate agent.
Yeah.
So you had a proper sales. You must have been the perfect rep candidate.
Yeah, I think I was. At the time.
Okay, so joined CD, and then just sort of let's talk a bit about that for a second. And how long was you there for? Was it like 4 or 5 years? I saw.
Yeah, 6 years actually, almost to the day. I think.
That's a real solid stint for your first recruitment role.
Yeah, I mean it's a good environment. I got the opportunity to progress within the business. Good opportunity to earn as well.
What was it just the classic route of joining there as a sort of trainee or consultant, and then you become a manager?
Yeah. The classic sort of route started as they had a slightly different model as they do in terms of BD teams and delivery, and also manager kind of.
So the sort of 180 model.
120 almost.
Really?
Kind of model, yeah.
Okay.
I think that works out in terms of percentages, yeah, or degrees or whatever. So you'd have a BD that would get the job on, a consultant that would find the candidates, and then a manager that manages the process. If that makes sense.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, it's quite a good model.
So just to sort of frame that up, then, so what there for nearly pretty much 6 years on the dot. Joined as a consultant. Did you go into the BD team, or did you go?
Yeah, moved to the BD team. So started in construction sales recruitment.
Okay.
So which had great success there. Worked and got mentored by a great boss. Very sort of tough love, very direct feedback.
Yeah.
Sort of live in the bear pit, so to speak.
Okay.
Which was an amazing grounding. It's obviously tough at the time getting such direct feedback. Right there. But actually, it's unbelievable. A chap called Colin Chandler, and then I moved into the IT side of the business.
Okay.
In a BDM role.
Yeah.
And then Med Tech, basically.
Really?
Took over that team.
And then what did you? So you grew that from scratch?
No, I took over the team. So there's a chap that was running it that moved into another company as it happened.
Okay.
Got the opportunity to step up. So,
and then how long was you in that role?
About a year, something like that. Yeah.
A year. And then in that role, you was what? You had a team that you was managing?
Yeah, there's about 3 or 4 of us, I think, at the time. Okay. Yeah, so BDM, a couple of consultants as well. So we're doing really well. But I think at the time I had that kind of bug to try and do something myself.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And I saw there's a great opportunity within MedTech and to grow something specialist on a global scale.
Yeah.
I looked around the market and there's no one really doing it actually. And our market is incredible. It's growing all the time. It's actually set to really explode over the next decade as well.
Yeah.
So now's the time kind of thing.
So let's just talk a bit about before you obviously had that what you're talking about there, sort of the thought process of you want to start your own agency. So what sounds great about that is it seems like you was always in a sort of real heavy BD sales focused role, which typically, if I think of the messages that I get a lot, is like that's the most challenging part for a lot of people, the BD, so that type of piece. But I guess to sort of round off that experience, you mentioned it a bit there with the mentor that you had. Early on, what were some of the challenges for you? Let's just start there for a second. What were some of the challenges early on when you was a consultant?
Okay, so in the early days in the recruitment industry.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a baptism of fire in recruitment the first sort of few months. It's tough. It's a much more direct sales environment than B2C, estate agency and those kind of environments, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
obviously the control, if you're inexperienced, the control you have over certain scenarios and situations isn't as good, if that makes sense, in terms of making sure your candidates are on point with, they're actually going to go to their interviews and what have you, and they're well prepped, etc. The clients are committed, and then obviously balancing everything as well, like that kind of balancing all those spinning plates, if that makes sense. So trying to control everything. And I think that the way that I did it, and I'd also suggest to other people to do it as well, is just work through it. Just work harder, just work harder, learn, be a bit of a sponge.
How willing was you to take that tough love feedback then from the chat?
Yeah, I was fine with it. Obviously, at times, sometimes you're like, okay, but I think like a lot of things, if you get feedback, reflect on it.
You can improve.
And improve, yeah, and it's great. And then you can be a better version of yourself go on the next day and keep on going onwards and upwards. So it was really good for me, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
What was you a good biller?
Yeah, I did well. So
what was your best year?
So presidents clubs and that sort of thing. So because of the way they did the model, I built 560, but it was like this 120 model, if that makes sense. Yeah. My best ever month was 98,971.
Really?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
It was over 100 and someone didn't start, basically.
Oh, really?
I always remember 98,971.
Oh, mate. So how that would work is obviously, so your role was to get the job piece, right? The client piece.
That was actually when I was a consultant filling the roles, and then when I was on the client piece, it was a new startup team basically we did.
Yeah.
So I got a couple $100,000, something like 250.
Did it? How much, looking back, how useful or helpful was it that you were able, in that environment, you was really able to focus? Because that is definitely, if I think when I started, for people out there, as you were saying, juggling and spinning the different plates and stuff, like how helpful was it, like just being like just really focusing on your craft?
I think the culture was very focused.
Was it?
Yeah, there wasn't too much. Yeah, everyone had fun and what have you, but it was a focused culture, and sort of led from the leaders there and the directors, people like Brad and obviously Colin that I mentioned as well. Yeah. So the culture was, a work hard culture, if that makes sense, to get your head down and what have you. So I think that probably helped actually.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, anyway, I was kind of focused on wanting to build something up and build up a career. I was pretty serious about trying to be good, if that makes sense. I wasn't just there to earn enough money for the weekend.
Yeah. Okay. To round that off,
I wanted to be good.
To round that off, then what? So, for those that are listening, that may be early on, year in, 18 months in, or even earlier, what's the sort of advice from the journey you've been on now, which is, again, having your own agency, and it's been a while since you was back in those days, nearly been 100k months. Like what's your sort of go-to advice for your whole learning experience and hiring people now that people can sort of benefit from? What do you typically, I would say,
just from my perspective, I would say to people, it's about getting your head down, learning, not letting your ego get in the way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And realising it's a long game as well.
Yeah.
You're not going to be, an absolute legend overnight. You're not going to be brilliant at what you do overnight. Yeah. Learn, develop, try and be better every day at what you do. Look at the great people in that business you're working with, how you can learn from them as well. Ask questions, look for feedback, look for criticism.
Did you naturally do that early on?
Yeah, I was actually. I was definitely a sponge and looking for feedback, definitely. I think it does separate people. I was reading a sports book the other day, and they were saying, is it like a football manager? Yeah. Ancelotti's an Everton fan, so I thought I'd read his book. And he was saying...
You're an Everton fan?
Yeah.
What the fuck's that happen, mate?
I know. I still don't know myself, still regretting it every day. But he was saying the players that used to come to him that wanted criticism, like Ronaldo and Ibrahimovic.
Yeah.
Whereas the average players that had a really bad career were the ones that didn't care, or they didn't want feedback, or they couldn't handle direct feedback.
No,
whereas those guys were like, look, what could I do better in the last game? Even though an amazing game, scored a hat-trick, whatever. They're like, criticise my game.
I think that's quite interesting, mate. Because I
forget that a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. And I think in today's world as well, the younger people coming through, how many people in today's world do like taking criticism? Not sure.
None of us like it.
It's become a bit more difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more difficult now.
If like people don't even like getting 2 likes on their post, and they're like picking up about that. Do you know what I mean?
And that's I guess the age that we've moved into. And obviously this was like 12 years ago, or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I think that's
social media
great.
didn't even exist. So.
It's come up a lot. So look, if you're listening right now, who around you are the people that you want to be learning from? Are you asking them questions? Are you actively trying to seek feedback? I think that's great advice. So have you always wanted to have your own business then? Like, did the sort of recruitment help sort of fuel that entrepreneurial spirit?
It definitely helped to fuel it,
really?
Without doubt. I think I was kind of searching, I guess, like a lot of people, what I wanted to do. I didn't really know throughout the majority of my younger kind of days in life and what have you. And then, it's a great industry to be part of in terms of, if you start to excel at it and be good as a recruiter. It's a great platform to then go on and do all sorts of things. Other people have gone into different markets and obviously stayed within companies and grown within them. It gives you an amazing grounding, I think, in terms of sales, in terms of organisation, all sorts of different skills you need, people skills. But yeah, it's something that I thought about for a while, and then the opportunity kind of arose in terms of my personal life as well. My wife was pregnant with our first, my son basically.
Yeah.
So I was like, look, if I don't do it now,
when are you going to do it?
Yeah. So I was like,
it's always interesting that my old boss who I used to work for, he started the recruitment business when his wife was pregnant, and it's like if you were to look like strategically. Why would you start a business when you're on a kid? Do you know what I mean? But it's actually happened. I've spoken to a lot of people. I remember in the recruitment days where you spoke to a lot of people and actually started a business around that period, because I think it's that sort of ultimatum. It's like, wow, okay, shit's about to get serious. Like, there's gonna be way more responsibility. If I'm really been thinking about it, when is there gonna be a better time? So what did you see in? So that definitely impacted your decision making. What did you see in the med tech piece that really sort of thought, this is it? What was there anything there that? In hindsight,
I think there's a few things actually. So first of all, the market's a great one to be part of in terms of the actual companies we're working with, the products they're making, actually making a real difference to people's lives.
For sure.
If you see some of the videos out there on YouTube, even of medical products and what have you, and what they're doing, so that's awesome to be part of that industry. So I've enjoyed it from that perspective. The growth in the market as well. It's huge, and it's always going to be changing and innovating.
How did you determine that out of interest? Just
in terms of the growth.
how did you sort of determine or strategically sort of look at?
I think it's just realising that ultimately we've got the world population is growing, right? That's down to medical technologies and other technologies as much as anything. Everyone's living longer, so that creates a bigger opportunity. We all kind of want to live forever, or definitely, the best life we can live, the healthiest life. We want that for our friends, for our family. So holistically, people can invest in
smart.
And it's it's a safe market as well in terms of global economies and what have you, again because of those reasons. If we've got a last couple of quid to spend, and it can help us if we're not very well, we're probably going to spend it on that instead of
health is wealth.
Yeah, exactly. Health is
right?
wealth.
If you don't have your health,
Smith, I think it was.
What have you got, mate?
Yeah, what have you got? So
okay, cool. So when did you start Projectus? I saw it was like how long?
So it was September 2012.
2012, yeah?
Yeah, 2012. So
okay. So let's think about the sort of first year for a second. Cast you back to, so your wife, obviously pregnant, first child. How many kids have you got now?
So we've got two now.
You've got two now, yeah, cool.
7 and 5. Yeah.
So first child, and then did you have a plan at this stage? Like, what was the strategy for you to start this business?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think when the early days, probably not enough of a plan, I'd say. It's a case of just kind of recruiting, trying to get some money, and then deciding to grow from there.
Okay.
If I had my time again, I probably would have worked out a bit more. But I think at the time, it's more the challenge of seeing if I could grow something. And actually
was it just you?
Yeah, so it's just me.
The whole first year?
Pretty much the whole first year. Or certainly for the first about 6 months.
First 6 months.
7 months, something like that was myself. So working from home for the first 3 or 4 months till my son was born, then obviously it was more difficult to work from home. A screaming baby. So I set the first office up in
If no one, I know obviously we spoke about this, but there's a brilliant picture of you in there, like you're like kitchen table with your like newborn son. I think the database is in the background. So okay,
bullhorn in the background.
So let's think about that for a second, because I think that definitely is probably. Someone listening right now thinking about starting their own recruitment business, or even listening that are on that sort of the early days, that can be real tough, right? So firstly, where did Projectus come from? Where that name come from? How do you think of that?
Yeah, so the idea was always wanted to work with startup businesses. And help businesses grow.
Yeah.
So the idea is if you work with us, we project you upwards, if that makes sense.
Nice, okay.
Together, we can project you forward, project your business up. So that's the idea. And the logo as well is like two people moving upwards in their careers, their lives. Okay. So it's about growth, really.
Okay, cool. So first 6 months, predominantly working at home.
Pretty much at home.
And
on my own, which is weird as well.
Really?
That's quite weird.
That's if you've been right. So like, literally, was the mindset just need to get cash in the bank?
Yeah, just wanted to work very hard. So got up early, started working like 7, half 7 as soon as I got up, really.
What was the approach? Was you just predominantly focusing on getting jobs on?
Yeah, getting new jobs on, new clients. You have to obviously have, restrictions as you do. get new candidates and leads. So really going kind of old school and going back to the
so
basics.
just flat out on the phone as much as possible, trying to build relationships.
Exactly, yeah. On the phone as much as possible, speaking to candidates, clients, etc., trying to build up the market myself essentially. So, but yeah, that the kind of the weirdness of being on your own in the room doing it is very different.
What helped you get through that then? That early period.
I guess I had to. It's that kind of sense of, I think one of the biggest motivators a lot of people have, especially entrepreneurs, is the fear of failure or just fear, full stop. So it's kind of, I have to do it. There's no option.
There's no
like plan B.
And you're right. I think literally having no plan B, obviously it's scary, but at the same time, it's like, there's no option. There's no option. Do you know what I mean?
You have to make it.
So how did you do in those first 6 months, like revenue wise? Do you remember?
Not loads actually. Didn't do like a deal for a couple of months.
How long did it take?
Then, so started trading in September. Did the first deals in sort of December, I think.
October, November, so 3 months.
Yeah, about 3 months. Then did quite a few in December, January, etc.
And then it just built up.
And built up from there. So, obviously remember the first kind of deals and what have you. But when the first when you actually get paid for the first invoice, it was a good moment.
Big moment.
So
what?
Sure, you had that in your business,
sure.
haven't you?
So what was you doing? What were we talking, like 10, 20K a month, or like what?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so a couple hundred or something in the first year, and then grew up from there. And then basically, one thing I didn't mention actually, when I set up the business, I didn't want to just be a sort of independent recruiter.
Did you know that from the start?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to try and build an actual.
Because as you said, you didn't have a plan, but did you know
an outline? Yeah.
But you knew it wasn't like the Tim Lawrie kitchen business show. Like
no. I knew I wanted to build something out.
Really,
but I didn't like go into the intricacies of a massive business plan like we do now, obviously in terms of our business. But
so when did you? So after 6 months, then obviously getting cash in. What? So then you didn't work from home then? Did you like get a?
Yeah, I got an office, like a shared office.
Did you?
That makes sense. I think it's before WeWork even existed, so it was like a shared office, like another company in the office. I just had like a desk,
really,
randomly in the corner.
Did that help? Like being in that environment?
Yeah, it did help. So obviously people working, what have you, and kind of cracking on. So it felt a bit more sort of professional, like I was making progress.
Yeah.
In what we do.
Okay. So overall, then the first 12 months. Definitely people are going to perceive those as the hardest, right? So first 6 months was getting money in the bank, complete old school, just trying to build relationships, being proactive. And then for the last sort of 6 months of those first 12 months then, was that when you obviously went into a shared office?
Yeah, and then started hiring.
You started hiring?
Yeah, hiring people for our business. I think the first hires, a couple of apprentices we hired to start off with, and that was maybe July, August. Yeah.
Why did you go down that route?
I think at the time, honestly, I was just trying to see the most cost-effective way of doing things, and also more so. Basically, my wife was on maternity leave at the time.
Yeah.
And her background was actually in recruitment and recruitment training.
Yeah.
So we had a resource there that meant that I could. She came into the business part time. I could focus on billing and new business, and she could help train up.
So when did she get involved?
And the graduates. So that was around that sort of time. So we're talking September, October.
Really?
The year after, like a year in.
Okay.
Give or take.
And so you recognise her strengths and she recognised her strengths, obviously. And then so the thought process was, one, just be a bit smart in terms of cost effective on if we could train some people up.
Yeah, absolutely.
How
train them our way of working as well.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. How did that work? Like, is that quite easy to do now? I don't know if you've done it recently, like apprentices. Like, Yeah,
we hired normally 1 or 2 apprentices every year. So
really?
The most recent couple joined us about 6 months ago, something like that.
So what, for people listening, that could be a great way to get some people in the business. Just talk a bit about that for a second. What's the sort of process of getting apprentices?
There's some apprentice agencies.
Really?
Almost like RectorX and what have you, that are really good. And people would, you normally advertise, or they advertise on your behalf and what have you. People that want to do an apprenticeship, and this apprenticeship, I think you can actually do it in recruitment now, or it's in sales, or it's in like admin support and what have you. We've got a couple of apprentices from that as well, so it's a good route. Now, it's nice to actually create opportunities for young people as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's great.
And not just focus on the graduate market, but other people that perhaps actually it wasn't the right choice for them to go to university, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And they wanted to.
I mean, look, if you're an apprentice going into that type of environment you're describing, just you, the founder. You've got to make shit happen. I mean, there's a lot you can learn in that type of environment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had apprentices that have been with us for 5-6 years and done really well. Also, around that time, I hired a more experienced person as well. So we had Rebecca, a chap called Dan Alexander. Dan's been on your podcast.
He's one of your early.
First few employees. I I'd actually placed him as a candidate a couple of times, I think at least once.
Really?
In medical sales.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah, no, I think I did a podcast with Dan ages ago. Okay. What was it like?
He's now at CD, so it's all like a weird.
I did think that when I was preparing for this. So, what was it like working with the other half, mate? What was that like?
It's good. Yeah, it certainly helped in terms of the foundation of the business. You know, and it also the fact it was sort of part time as well. So a couple of days. It also helped to keep me sane as well a little bit, actually, and us, because we could go for like lunch together and stuff. Whereas if you got babies and stuff at home screaming, plus you got a lot of pressure of the business. So actually it's quite nice to be able to spend like an hour just half an hour whatever just talking and reconnecting. I'm
assuming, did it help though that like she fully understand what the hell was going on? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. So she understood obviously what we're trying to do as a business. So that side of it. Plus she's got the background in terms of support and getting the best out of people, which is a great skill to have. And something that's very hard to do, and something that I've always seen. The one advice that I'd give and to take out from other people with their businesses and feedback I've got from other people in a similar situation. Probably the hardest things to do if you're looking to scale a business, especially if it's just you. Is the balance between billing and growing up a business. And then also training and developing other people. I think if you try and do everything yourself, it's virtually
hectic.
So it's so hard to do.
So
having some
she
support
added so much value.
So much value there.
That's amazing.
And I think sometimes, naturally with our egos and stuff, we try and do everything ourselves. But then you just end up.
I can imagine early on as well, right? Early on, yeah. So, okay, mate. To round that off, then, first year, what did you generate revenue wise in that first year? Do you remember?
I think it's maybe about a couple of hundred, about 200 grand, something like that in the first year from scratch, and then sort of doubled it the next year and sort of went on and up for us now.
Biggest, so I guess for people early on in their journey, they sort of ran that off. What you know now, knowing what you know now, anything that, just to sort of round off that first year, would you have done anything differently, or what would sort of be the advice for people looking to take that leap tomorrow? That
especially if you are doing something on your own, is reach out to other people. Another thing I did was seek out people that have done it before. So I got advisors and went to speak to people that had grown recruitment companies before, successful companies, and got advice from them. Went to like round table type things for recruitment startups and what have you. So don't feel like you're on your own, even if you're on your own, if that makes sense.
And I think
people are always willing to help you out and be willing to take that on board as well.
And I think that's definitely. I know you're involved in different networks and stuff, but I think that's definitely even more the case now, isn't it? And today, like people are willing to help with it. We're in a super connected world now where maybe back then you maybe had to do a bit more work to find people, but now you could reach out to loads of people, couldn't you?
So
people
easy right
willing
now.
to help.
Everyone's willing to help. There's all sorts of different organisations. Like we're part of the IDLC. There's some other ones out there as well as understanding the market, but those guys have been amazing for us. There's a lot of people out there that are happy to give you some time and a favour, really.
Did you? And then you mentioned briefly earlier about you didn't have much of a plan. How much should people plan? How much should people have a business plan around their
I think the reality with the business plan is, especially in a fluid kind of environment like recruitment, it's going to change quite often. So it's about updating it, once a quarter and what have you. We've got a long-term vision right now for the business, and I did at the start of growing some business where I could create value in a company and have a company that potentially we could sell in the future. However, be aware that things can change quite quickly, so always be fluid. And also, the great thing about a plan as well is you can change it and you can evolve it.
But
don't be afraid to do that.
But would you agree then that it'd be beneficial to have some sort of direction or intention?
Absolutely, you need to have an intention from day one. One of the key things as well, I think, sometimes is people are sometimes unsure. Do I want to build a really big business? Do I want more of a lifestyle business? Or do I want a bit of both and kind of get trapped in there? So it's good to understand from day one what suits you.
Because if you have that sort of intention, then it's going to impact and help the decision-making process
and the
during
people you hire as well.
Exactly. Okay.
And their careers and their lives, because you're responsible not only for yourself if you're hiring other people, but it's also their futures as well. So it's important that you can give them a clear plan.
Okay, so that was year one. So obviously Projectus now, it's been in business, what, seven and a bit
years now,
7 and a bit years. So let's just think about sort of the second year, maybe to the fourth year, right? Let's just think about what went on there. So second to fourth year, so going into the second year then, how big was your team at that point then?
So second year would have been maybe 4 or 5 people, something like that,
Yeah, and then what did that, by sort of year 4, what were we looking at there?
So year 4 we're up to about 15, something like that.
15?
Yeah, 14, 15.
Okay.
I would have thought by then.
Let's talk
We've
a bit
moved
about
office
that.
a couple of times as well.
What's that, sorry?
We'd moved office a couple of
Oh,
times
okay.
by then. So yeah.
So year 2 to year 4, I mean, that's quite a bit of growth. I think what I've been messaged a lot about. So how many people have you got in the business now? Just for context.
26.
26.
I think. Yeah, 26 right now.
So I guess we can talk about it as a whole, but I guess a lot. You may have experienced this when you speak to people, but I've got a lot of messages around Hisham. Like, I'd love to hear from business owners on sort of how they've approached or their experience in scaling a business from 2 people, 5 people to 15, 20, and that's a real that. It seems like from the conversations I've had and sort of the messages that's really challenging.
It is challenging. You get to different stages and you tend to kind of plateau at certain points, need to change certain aspects of how you run the business to get to the next level.
So what was the first plateau, do you think?
Well, it's first of all, it's just you, and then it's like get to about 5 people and get a bit of critical mass together. So almost like once you to get to that level, that's like a recruitment team, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, working in a recruitment company, you normally have a team of 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
Get to that stage as well. Then the next stage to get to sort of like 10 people, you've got a couple of teams and almost your role becomes like a sales director kind of role.
Yeah.
That can be tough to get to those levels. And I think what we ultimately did is it's about investing ultimately. And not being scared to realise that you're going to have to hire a number of people to be able to get to that level, if that makes sense. Yeah. And unfortunately, not all of them will work out with the best intentions.
Yeah.
So we did a couple of academies where we hired like 4 people at once, if that makes sense, to get some critical mass going, get some momentum ultimately, which is what it's about.
Yeah.
That's probably the word. So I think hiring in groups of people at certain stages will help you to grow. So it creates that momentum for the business and pushes the business forward really.
What so how have you got better? That's clearly the real challenge.
That's obviously putting a lot of your own money in to do that. So
really?
You've got to be willing to do that.
So let's be realistic then. So that year 2 to year 4, getting to the sort of 15 head mark, I mean, was you pretty much reinvesting the majority of the profits and was you taking much out of the business?
It's about enough to live on. It's still that now. We're investing, want to grow the business and reinvest in
because everyone just makes the assumption it's like, oh, Tim's done all right, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like when you have your own business, but it's
people do assume that you're taking all the money and paying yourself whatever. But you want to. Well, I want to grow the business, so the most important investment is obviously in that. And obviously everyone wants to live a comfortable life, but and pay themselves reasonably well. But it's always been the case that we want to reinvest in growing the people, and the same we've done this year as well. So kind of continually, if that makes sense.
Okay,
that's been the focus.
Some of the sort of the key learnings during that period then, mate, 2 to 15 or whatever, like that, the sort of early stages. But so you mentioned there in terms of if you can build a bit of momentum from hiring more people at once, but reinvesting the money.
Reinvesting the money, having some, you need to by then create your, I guess your framework and what your business is about, if that makes sense, in terms of marketing, in terms of the way that you sell, in terms of your kind of your lyrics and your processes, your lyrics on the phone when you're speaking to candidates, clients, what's different about you, your processes. So you need to, I'd say that's the difference. 4 or 5 people, you can just kind of roll along day to day. But you'll probably stagnate if you don't have those in place, if that makes sense, and what your business is about, what Projectus is about. So that's what we started to implement then.
What were some of the biggest challenges during that period then, do you think?
For me, I was kind of back in that sort of billing manager role. So again, it's kind of just managing all the different people, also looking to grow people to become leaders as well. So it's kind of balancing your time. It's probably the key thing. Because
I'm assuming then what you're saying there, you like in order for the business to grow, you need to ensure that you're spending time on the business rather than the day-to-day in the trenches.
So that balance is probably the hardest thing for the owner of the business, just to make sure you're effective.
Especially at that stage as well. Because that was the type of business that I worked in, and it was like it's just so easy for me to grab you all the time and get your advice. I can imagine slowly but surely it's like...
especially that time you've got a million ideas where the business can go, because you're starting to create some momentum, as we discussed. So you're starting to think about things like marketing and branding and what have you. You're starting to think about, okay, what other markets can we go into, or what other sort of types of roles can we recruit for? How can we grow teams? You've got a very different thought process. You've got a lot going on in your mind at once. And also you're trying to build. So there's
So what was...
lots of traffic.
How was that process of you being in that position where you was that billing manager sort of role? So if I'm listening right now and I'm in that sort of role, or that's my environment right now, but I want to get to the point where I may still have to be involved day to day, but I'm not always being sort of dragged pillar to post. I'm able to sort of ensure I have enough time focusing on the business so I know it's going in the right direction. What's the sort of process of going from where you are, really scattered, doing all different things, to being able to focus on the business? What was that? What does that process look like? What do people need to start implementing and actioning?
I think one of the key things that we did is bring in someone to support you at that more senior level every day.
Okay.
So we hired a sales director.
Yeah.
Liam has doing a brilliant job. He's been with us about 2.5, 3 years now. So around that sort of time.
Oh, well, okay.
So that was
people
crucial.
below you.
Yeah, so having
Hiring
somebody
people, below,
coming in, somebody coming in at a senior level, whether that be somebody who can grow internally. At the time, we didn't have anyone with the right level of experience, so we brought someone externally. But somebody that can help to deal with that the day to day and help to develop and focus on the sales side of the business.
Yeah.
So it gives you a bit more freedom and headspace to look at other parts of the organisation and how you can grow the overall business, if that makes sense.
And I'm assuming
so
then that when you're talking about the processes and these types of things, for that to be an effective hire and for you to maximise that investment, you must have made the time to be like, right, so if someone comes in and they do my job, what does my job look like? What do I need them to be doing? And do you get what I mean? I'm sure that must have had people need to think about that.
Absolutely. And also what you're happy to give away, because I think that can kind of control thing, and it's your baby. It's, and a lot of people do struggle with that as well, I think.
So how do you deal with that? Because that can be difficult, especially at that sort of stage, right? Because again, a lot. I'm assuming, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming by that point, a lot of the business came from the founder brand, which is you. It's Tim. Like a lot of those relationships may be part of you or from you. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah, exactly. At that time, it was a lot of relationships I'd bought on. One that sort of passing on to other people.
Exactly.
To manage that relationship. But I think it's a difficult one. I think it will depend on the person's persona and what they're like as a character as to how willing they are to let go.
I'm assuming it's a process, right?
Yes, it is a process. It's about trust ultimately and what have you. And we've got great directors and managers right in the business right now. But yeah, I guess it's a realization that ultimately one human being on their own is a limit to what you can actually achieve if you try and do everything. Yeah. So if you can get other people to I think, was it Steve Jobs? It says, I hire smart people to tell me what to do. That makes sense. So it's the kind of realizing that actually, you can hire other people and bring other people into your business. They're actually probably better than you at aspects of the role. And giving them freedom to do that. But it's not easy. No, it's definitely a psychological battle that you have with yourself.
Especially it's that trust piece, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because did you do anything to sort of really get these people to get brought in or help speed up your trust? I'm thinking, I don't know, at this sort of stage, was you talking about, look guys, this is the journey we're going on, this is where we're going, there's opportunities to own part of the business? I don't know.
Yeah, it's about trust on both sides really, because for people to be bought into your business, they need to trust that it's an environment they can flourish in as well. So you need that from both perspectives. So it's an internal thing whether you're willing to give that, and I have been in terms of wanting to other people to excel and to trust them to do that. And we within our business we've got a share scheme as well, share option scheme. So every single person in the company.
When did you put that in place?
A couple of years after we started. So it's something I always wanted to do.
Really?
We didn't have it in the firm I was with previously. So I thought I wanted an environment where everyone felt some ownership and we were on the same journey together. Exactly. If that makes sense.
So how does that actually work then? Like, is it a share scheme where, I don't know, like if you sell the business they get X, or like how does it actually work?
They'd get that. So each
they get paid dividends as well sometimes at the end of the year, or?
This is an EMI scheme, so it's based on the company being sold at some point. And essentially, you can win more share options every year depending on your performance, how much you bill as a biller, your team's performance, a manager, as a director, the whole company performance, and also for support staff, the whole company performance. So every single person in the company, you don't have to be like a director.
And how do you think that's impacted people's commitment and being really brought into the Projectus journey? Has it?
Yeah, people feel that there's, it's a company that's got a long-term future that we're all working towards. Something. So I think it's been really valuable from my perspective, and from the feedback I've got as well from the team. We've got good longevity of the people that have been good, and successful.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Staying in the company, and that's great.
Just while we're talking about that, how important is it for you then to communicate where the hell this ship is going? Do you know what I mean? That must be key. It's
vital,
that.
And I think it's vital to be open and share with where the business is going. So we have catch-ups at least once a quarter. We sort of share not just myself, but all the managers, and actually everyone in the company shares their goals and where we're going as a company, where the managers want to take their teams, where the individuals want to take themselves as well.
Yeah.
We also look at not just the business, but also look into people's personal goals as well.
Yeah. Okay. So have you always typically been open around that? Yeah,
absolutely. And I think you develop obviously over time, and when you get to, I think it's another transition actually. Once you get to a certain point, not sure entirely when that was now, but perhaps when you get to that 8-10 heads and grow again, it's just realizing that the ultimate power, as I said, is not with you as the founder, but it's with the people obviously in the business, and making sure that they're in the best place they can be to help grow the business. That's the key thing.
Okay, so to round that off then, and then we can sort of go into sort of more recent years.
Yeah, no worries.
So I know you mentioned there. Let's just talk about figures for a sec. Where was your billings wise and sort of net fee income revenue wise, sort of year 4? How did that?
Probably about $1 million, something like that, in terms of NFI.
Really?
Give or take, I think by about that.
It's not bad though, is it?
Yeah. So we'd kind of did 200, 400, 700 million.
Yeah.
Then we kind of plateaued actually for 1 year.
Really?
And I think that was when I started to have that realization around the structure and the processes to get to that next level, and hiring a sales director, etc. So we could take the next kick on again, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And that trust issue and letting go, and you know.
Yeah. Okay. So around the sort of year 4 mark, then hit the £1 million mark, NFI, net fee income, and then what? So then at that sort of period, did you just say that? So you sort of plateaued and then push on after that? So
exactly. So then we plateaued every year. Then we did up to 1.5. So it's got big growth in 1 year when we bought.
Was that year 6? Or
about year 5, 6.
That would have been last year, right?
Year before last year.
And then what's your financial year? Have you just...
We just finished it, so we did just under 2 million last year.
Really?
For January to December.
That's amazing. Okay.
And
so let's talk about those, because that's great growth, right? So let's sort of unpack that before we finish then. So clearly you've been someone that sort of had the humility to be like, right, okay, so this is where we're at. What can I don't know, either spend more time on or spend less time on so we can push the business forward?
That's crucial, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess, but just quickly, just because, again, it always comes up. So at the year 4 mark, you're around that sort of circa 50 head mark. Now you're at, you say just under 30, right? Is that what you said?
So 26, and we're looking to hire about 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So let's just talk about that for a second. So from that sort of period to where you are now, again, what do you think sort of impacted or had enabled you to do that? Some of the key things there, because again, that is a difficult period that a lot of people, again, I'm at 15 heads right now, getting to sort of 30 heads and growing the net fee income and growing the profits of the business, that may just seem like impossible, or I'm always at that plateau. What are some of the things that sort of you've learned during that process that have impacted that, do you think? Yeah,
there's a couple of key things. It's looking for leaders within your business, and obviously looking to grow people to become leaders is key. So that there's team leaders, billing manager kind of roles.
Yeah.
And to help you to get to the next level, that's absolutely crucial.
How do you cultivate that? How do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, naturally, some people want to lead others, if that makes sense, and to manage. It's also making people obviously aware, as we discussed earlier, that you can achieve a lot more if there's other people that are backing you up, if that makes sense. And also the opportunity for people to really enhance their careers and to develop themselves.
Okay.
And develop others is a key challenge. Probably the hardest thing in life is managing people, whether it be your kids, whether it be your family, your friends, or in a business context. It's a big challenge. So making encouraging people in our business to give it a go, and obviously looking for people when we bring them in that would want to.
Okay.
But it's not for everyone. It's not the be all and end all. But certainly to get to that next level from that sort of 15, which is basically a couple of teams. You have to have that level.
I guess just to sort of round that off, I guess part of that involves that you're effectively being able to attract staff to your business.
Yeah.
That's a real challenge, right?
It's a real challenge.
Do you know what I mean? What's that been like for you as a business? I'm sure it's become a bit easier, but again, that's a challenge for those people listening that may be on that sort of 10, 15 mark, even earlier on, like how the fuck am I going to get people through the door? That can be really difficult. Do you know what I mean?
Getting people through the door is the hardest. I think once once you can tell about your story and where you're going, etc.
It's
easy.
So
you've got to, it's about, and then obviously managing the process of meeting people, etc. So after a while, I think probably once you get to about 10, 15, you probably get a bit of a understanding of what a kind of you person looks like, if that makes sense. So also trying to be more objective with the people you're hiring as well, not just doing it on gut. So things like psychometric profiling and what have you. Yeah, we do 2 different ones.
That's great. And have you done that on your employees?
Yeah, everyone. Yeah,
smart, because that's come up a couple of times, and that's become like really impactful on people's. So if you how cost effective is that? Is that affordable for a small business?
Yeah. So anything, there's a couple of different ones we do, but yeah, it's like anything between sort of 50, 100 quid a pop, something like that. Really? So it's nothing really.
And
when
would you do that? Would you do that like after, I don't know, after the first stage? Like obviously you're not going to just do that on everyone, are you? So I guess
between the sort of if we like somebody really, and then you're gonna then we do like first and second stage, third stage.
And how does that help you make a better decision? Is it that instead of just you going around, you know what, he's a fucking great guy or great gal, you can then have some stuff to back up,
to back it up, and some stuff to challenge you as well, and go, okay, this is what they're like as a person. Also to understand whether their character would fit into the culture of the business. If it wouldn't, ask questions around that. Is really important to do. Understand the way that they sell and what sort of salesperson they are is really important as well.
Okay.
Depending on the sort of role you're looking to hire. So I think it's good to get some science behind.
Yeah, for sure. Feelings, especially when you're at that stage of growth.
Because we're head people or heart people normally in life, right?
Yeah.
So if you can get a bit of both, it's going to always help.
When do you think is a real good time to really get practical and more? Because I'm assuming the 10 mark, 15 mark, I feel like gut instinct, ensuring that is this person going to fit in, blah, 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 is probably a bit more important than maybe. Yeah. So what is it like when you're breaking, when you can't no longer like completely what am I trying to say? So like when you get to a certain point that you can't hire loads of Tims, do you know what I mean?
I think also, you know, and you kind of rush things then because you're trying to do so many jobs at once. That's when you plateau, because you're hiring people, but you're rushing the process, you know, want to grow, etc. But also you're trying to balance 100 other things. Once you have that realization, I think then it's about, again, for your hiring, for your business, making sure you've got a process in place. And
did you have anyone dedicated to trying to get people through the door?
We didn't up until about 6 months ago.
Oh, fuck, really?
Yeah.
So how was you approaching that then? Did you always have the mentality of always hiring?
Yeah, it was me that was primarily doing that. Yeah. So I was always hiring and...
just sliding into people's DMs.
Advertising direct and exactly. Getting the guys to refer people to us, using rec to recs, etc. So, but it's a full on job. To be fair.
Yeah. Would you that's definitely something that probably people are thinking about. Do you feel like I should have got someone dedicated to doing this before 6 months ago, or?
Yeah, well, I guess what we've done is kind of a needs must up to that point. So I was doing some Rebecca, who I mentioned earlier, was doing some of our internal recruiting when she was working part time. So we're kind of sharing it around. But what we realised is, as I said, it's kind of a full-time focus.
Yeah.
If you actually get somebody, if you get somebody doing it every day for 1 hour or 2 hours, it's amazing how much more effective that is than someone dipping in and out.
Okay.
So we hired Rebecca Cooper about 6 months ago. Something has been brilliant, and the people we've hired already have been great. So
the final point on hiring, what are sort of your sort of, I know you mentioned there you're getting some more science behind your hiring, stuff like that, but any sort of non-negotiables for you now through the sort of learning experience over the last sort of 7 or so years when you hire people? What are the sort of non-negotiables for you as a business owner?
The most important is people have a positive mindset.
Really?
Yeah, that's literally the most important thing. People have a positive mindset that want to grow and happy to develop themselves and be better.
How do you find that out in an interview?
Just the way they come across and sort of their language, the way they answer questions.
Yeah.
Talk through some examples and scenarios of what they've done in the past, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that's the most important thing for us. People that are proactive and positive, really.
Yeah. That's fair enough. I think look, in recruitment, if you're not positive, then there's so much negative that can happen that you can just sort of choose to focus on. Do you know what I mean?
That's why it's the most important thing. So people that are naturally or have made themselves positive, which you can do, is really important for us. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So I mean, look, the figures that you showed with us, that's some great growth, right? So I guess let's unpack that a bit. So we've spoken about the hiring strategy and your learnings through that and how you got better at that. Mm-hmm. So has you been able to sort of, I'm assuming because you've got more people around you, cultivating leaders in your business, what do you think that's enabled you to do in terms of focus on the business or be able to give enough energy to that's enabled you to sort of ensure this business is becoming more profitable, do you think? Any sort of key things around that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the key things now that we've got in the business is someone who focuses on the sales side of the business,
Okay.
and someone who focuses on the operations in terms of every day, in terms of managing those processes for us. So operations and talent director Rebecca and Liam on the sales side.
So just quickly.
So my role's completely changed now to how it was.
So what? Just so I think it's pretty clear what Rebecca does, right?
Yeah.
So the sales Liam. What's his role?
So he manages the sales teams essentially.
And that's how's it split in your business now? So you've done the BD. So you've got the 180 model.
We've got a mixture actually. So we've got so we're quite flexible from that perspective in terms of we've got a BD person in each team, or hiring for them at the moment. Then we've got some market specialists, which is 360, and a couple of people that are kind of more on the journey in terms of do some BD, but more on the candidate side of things.
Okay.
So a bit of a hybrid blend, but that's a few reasons to get the best out of people. Some people are
I was going to say playing to their strengths.
Play to their strengths, which is really important to do. But also from a BD perspective, we realised if we ever have, being perm focused business, if we ever have the sort of ups and downs that you get with perm. It's quite often because we've got a load of jobs and the BD snack.
So having someone always dedicated to that.
Yeah. So
you think that's been quite a big impact on?
Yeah, it's the next level of evolution for us to have that.
Really?
To get to that next level of growth from the sort of 20 to the 50 that we want to
do. So Liam, you've got someone dedicated to helping the guys and girls who are focused on BD sales, winning clients' jobs, focus on helping them maximise their efforts and become better.
Absolutely, yeah. And manage the managers, the team leaders, if that makes sense, the 4 team leaders, yeah. So that's his.
That I'm assuming that's something that you used to do.
Yeah, I used to do that as part of my role. So,
and how long has he been doing that for?
Couple of years, 2.5 3 years, yeah. So then my role changed into kind of managing him, but also keep an eye on that. Client development side of things, but then also looking at more of the ops side, so the marketing and the ops and the business. And then that got to a certain point where I realised again, I spread myself too thin, and then you're not as effective actually when you're doing that. So I wanted to hire somebody that could help us develop, have the best process in terms of the structure of the business. Look at how we can hire more great people for our business, which is the most important thing. And also manage the marketing aspects as well, which is yourself. Branding and marketing is becoming
more important.
Is absolutely huge. Yeah.
Okay, so is that what you do now then? What is that your role
so
now?
So I manage those 2 guys, and then my focus is looking at ways we can attract people to our business more holistically, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then also looking at business development for us again.
How you can grow the business.
How I can grow our business from a sales perspective as well. So kind of more overarching, if that makes sense, and still
rather than the sort of day to day, how you can maximise that call. It's more of like strategically. What markets can we go into? What countries can we look at that can enable us to sort of.
So I've got time to kind of to think, which I think at times you don't. If you're a company, you used to have any time to think. So it gives me a bit more time to think. Whether that's a good thing, I don't know. We'll find out, but I'm sure.
And then how involved do you get, like in terms of like driving culture in your business now? Like I'm assuming you're very in the business you are size now. Like are you still very accessible, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I still obviously sit with everyone in the office and sort of go around the sales floor and sort of catch up with people briefly throughout the day. But obviously don't want to tread on people's toes at the same time, but it's good to find out and get a barometer of how people are getting on. So that's really important to do that, to catch up with everyone and make sure everyone's doing well. But yeah, the most important thing is, we get a lot of feedback from the people as well, and the consultants within the business, and everyone, all the employees, in terms of what we can improve. So let's look at those aspects and go, okay, what can we do holistically as a whole business to make us a little bit better every day? So that's key, and get feedback from people, make sure everyone's happy. You want people coming to work with a smile on their face. We're recording it as we discussed earlier on Blue Monday or whatever.
Blue Monday,
those feelings are the opposite of what ultimately you'd want in a role in a company, and that's key to us. So it's about providing that platform where people are going to enjoy what they do, and we're going to hopefully get the best out of them.
Okay. So before we finish, then, I mean that all seems really positive, and I love the way sort of it seems like you just become more and more comfortable with loading off some of the responsibilities that you've typically had.
And as I said, that is a challenge for a lot of people, and has been for me. And it's,
I was going to say, what's been the biggest challenges during the last sort of 2-3 years for you then personally? Because obviously, how is it? Has there been any challenges on, I don't know, the personal life?
Maximising my time across all aspects of my life, I think, is the key challenge, really. So, I think sometimes you get to a point where you're doing little bits in every area.
But you're not that
sense.
effective in.
But are you effective?
Yeah.
Are you effective at anything really? So having the realization that there's other people that are probably better at certain aspects of whatever it might be than you. So giving them the freedom to do that, and then they can become more creative, actually come up with different ideas. Taking some time out to breathe and think of different ideas is really important as well.
So what do you do for that? How do you do that? Do you literally book out time, or?
Yeah, sometimes book out time, or at least if you don't have constant day-to-day things to think about, then it gives you that.
They give you,
anyway. And you can start to think and research things and go, okay, what can we do here? What can we do there? That sort of thing.
So any things any sort of real practical advice that, I don't know, you've implemented over the last couple of years in terms of managing time and maximising your time that you want to share?
A bit more structured, making sure that you have structure in the business. And we got some advice on this as well, where you're not, constantly just having meetings with people about random ideas that come into your head, if that makes sense, because actually it's not that productive a thing to do.
Yeah.
Organising yourself. So thanks to Rebecca, we've got a good way that we organise ourselves on Planner and what have you. And you've got a bit more structure in terms of when you're communicating with people.
So you can't just be grabbed for just out of the blue.
Yeah, I was probably the worst person for grabbing that for random ideas that that wouldn't be naturally what I'd do. So just making sure that you're a bit more process driven in terms of that side of it, things really important. Okay. I hope that gives you a bit of a.
So the future then. What does that look like then, mate?
Yeah,
what's going on? So 2020, new decade. I think in our session you was like, this has got to be the year of the vision, isn't it?
Yeah,
2020 vision.
It's the ultimate year to be alive. I don't know.
Talk to me about what does the vision look like, mate?
So this year we want to grow double the size of the sales team in terms of the consultants and the BD.
Yeah.
So people recruiting. This crew. We've got some targets from the guys to set up a business in America for us. So
wow.
People working towards that. So we want to have a physical office over there.
The actual opportunity, I mean, it's coming up a lot now, isn't it? I mean, like businesses moving to America and stuff like that. What opportunities have you seen?
Massive, especially in our market as well, because the medical, I think it's 10 out of the top 20 paid jobs in America are medical related.
Oh, wow.
Because of the insurance over there.
So how are you approaching that? Are you sort of trying to execute while in the UK and then if it goes get traction?
Yeah, on roles from the UK in America.
And then if it goes well, get some traction, you'll then potentially move over
and there. And again, in our market, there's not huge exposure over there in terms of specialist companies, a lot of sort of one-man band type businesses, a couple of really good ones over there. But generally speaking, there's no one really working the way we're working in terms of our processes. We know.
Well, that from the conversation I've had, that seems a sort of competitive advantage from day one. That typically a recruiter in America will cover if I work for you, if I recruit for you, then I'll recruit all your roles rather than no, I just do that. So how have you identified a potential state to go after or anything like that, or is it quite?
It's still fairly early. We're focusing on the East Coast stuff with the time difference.
Time difference, yeah.
We're working with clients. Another thing about our market, actually, a lot of companies are American. The startups that we work with in Europe.
So how you can leverage potential some
relationships. So sort of moving back up the food chain, so to speak, and speaking to people obviously in the US and helping them to build out their teams as well.
Yeah,
is what we're doing. So so early days. But that's a big part.
Excited about America, growing the actual headcount of the business.
Yep, they're the key plans for this year. Creating more managers as well.
Nice.
So helping people to move up our food chain and create promotions for people in the business, really critical. So we've got a management training program at the moment. We just set up a future leaders program as well.
Cool.
For people that want to be leaders in the future. That's crucial for this year to
Everyone
get that
wants progression, don't they, mate?
Yeah, exactly. And that's you've got to be able to give people a platform to progress, and they need to obviously deserve it. Don't get me wrong, but that's really crucial that we do that, and we're working towards that.
Obviously, look, you've been in recruitment for a while. What do you see from your perspective and your experience that's sort of on the horizon for recruitment, or what do you sort of expect over the next sort of decade or next year or so?
It's going to be huge innovation both in our market in terms of med tech, but also recruitment as well. I think. Yeah. The market is obviously changing as well. It's about adding real value, I think, to your clients and candidates. Yeah. Real value for them and helping to grow their businesses, not just putting a bum in the seat. So what else can you do? What other services can you offer to your clients to help them to really to excel as a business and to grow their business? Yeah.
What things do you think sort of fall into that category?
Yeah, making sure they've got are they the sort of company people want to work for, helping them with that in terms of their employer branding. Yeah. And then their media work and what have you, and advising them on that. Make sure their onboarding's on point. Yeah. So really digging into that sort of detail. Consulting with them ultimately. And offering a consultative solution to helping their businesses grow, not just filling the odd vacancy, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Just being more of an actual partner and
absolutely. That's what I feel will definitely happen. Adding real value, rather than just anything transactional, because that can be done by some companies directly or through tech, if that makes sense. Whereas the real consulting piece and adding human value, is what will be enhanced and continue to grow, I think.
Just a quick one, mate, before we finish. I think I'm always curious about this, and I think it's important to talk about it. How what's the journey been with you, like your personal life and your relationships, like managing and growing this business? Obviously, like how has that been? Has that been quite easy to keep on top of, or I'm sure there's been challenges along the way?
It's not, nothing's easy, if that makes sense. So of course there's a lot more going on in your brain ultimately. If you're running your own business than there would for other people, because you're thinking about, you have to think about things a lot more, and you get a lot more different thought processes coming through. You're managing yourself, but you're also responsible for loads of other people. You then got your family life as well. And a lot going on. A lot going on basically. So trying to make sure you got some sort of balance and release, and of course, the ups and downs within that. So one of the key things we do is try and share our goals of business. They call it the 5 pillars, Projectus. We share different goals with each other. So helping to be
personal goals, is it?
Personal goals. So
that doesn't have to be, I want to build this year. It's
no. So you do the business goals, look at finance and money and what have you. Make sure people have got some goals around that as well. Your mind, so mindset goals.
Nice.
Health as well, and also relationships. So taking the time out and making sure you reconnect with people.
And you encourage people to openly share those? Yeah. That's wicked. How long have you done that for?
Still done it for a couple of years, actually. Got the idea from a chap called Andrew Silito. He's got the 4Ps program. We added one more on there. We've been doing that for a long time. So everyone shares those every quarter with each other.
That's wicked.
And sort of cheer each other and to achieve them. Great. But it's very hard to keep all 5 in check and balance. I think it also helps, your very close personal relationship can help in terms of, if you've got a partner and what have you, making sure that they're behind you, which my life has obviously been. That helps to keep you kind of grounded and motivated in the days that go up and down. And then obviously the responsibility of the team as well, and making sure that you're on point for them. But you definitely, I think, need some releases sometimes, whether that be, for some people it's exercise, isn't it?
Well, you've got a personal goal, haven't you, which is
I've got my first marathon, so
Jesus Christ,
6'5", 20 stone or something. It won't be the easiest challenge.
It's going to be a journey, man.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
When's that?
April.
April
this year. So.
You raising money for that, right?
Yeah, I'll be raising money for Mind, actually, talking about
Mind.
About Mind. Yeah,
awesome.
So we're talking about mental health. So.
Yeah, anyway, if anyone wants to support Tim on that,
please
definitely
do.
help out. So you've never what's like the most you've ran?
Did a half marathon about 4 years ago.
4 years ago, and that's it.
And that's it. Yeah.
Mate.
So I'm not like a runner. I wanted to do it to sort of challenge my brain to do something I really don't want to do. But I do not want to do.
Important. Love that, mate.
So it's good for your mentality, I think, to sometimes sort of do things that you might not necessarily want to do.
For sure, definitely.
But it will help you.
Well, look, so I think you've been on a great journey, mate. I think it's great to hear sort of. I think what's clear is you're clearly someone that's always had sort of humility, and it seems like you haven't sort of let your ego get in the way in any way, shape or form. So look, last question I always ask everyone on this show is if you could communicate to every single recruiter, recruitment business owner out there, they'd take on your advice, they'd implement it tomorrow, could be a phrase, a sentence, anything, what comes to mind if they'd listen to Tim?
I say don't try and do everything on your own. Look at other people for help and advice and guidance, really. You're not alone, ultimately.
You're not alone?
Yeah.
I like that.
There you go.
Tim, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you.
Thank you, mate.